fandom really knows, has his knowledge set down. Um, Ryan's video, Nerdrotic, various people have issues with it. We've seen the Amazon videos getting ratioed. We are seeing that there's a clear disconnect of the people who now own the property now, which is Amazon, and the fans who want to see their, I guess, beloved franchise respected. And who doesn't want to see a story that you enjoyed growing up respected? And I've heard various reasons why and how it could have been done. Quite simple, in fact. And it's been a growing trend that we've seen. We've seen it with Star Wars and what has happened, and it's never really recovered. We're seeing what happened with Star Trek and what has gone through. It never recovered. We've seen what's happening with Doctor Who, never recovered. We recently saw that with the Masters of the Universe and what happened with He-Man and all of that type of stuff. And clearly, there's always going to be this backlash, and as a result, it leads to a less memorable product. Products that people don't care for, products that people don't care if there's going to be a sequel or not, because the current product they were given was rather disrespectful to the source material. And I tend to agree with that. However, there are times where we see that such a case happens where the idea of it is respected, and that would be Sonic. Now, we all remember what happened when the first Sonic was getting ready to come out and the horrible, horrible redesign as well, and how that had generated a lot of fan backlash. And what a lot of people really appreciated about that is that Universal was like, okay, no, sorry, Paramount was like, hey, and the director was like, hey, we heard you, and we're going to make some changes. And lo and behold, when the trailer came out, when another trailer came out, we see Sonic not only accurate, but we see that, he's himself, we get a video game feel, we get all of this type of stuff, and people really liked it. And the movie went on to be successful prior to the pandemic. It made a lot of money. It beat out freaking Harley, the Birds of Prey, and the fantabulous Emancipation of Harley Quinn, and over there, now it's Birds of Prey. And we saw that, hey, when a studio realizes that, hey, you know what, we want people to see our movie, we want to bring in new people, but we also realize we want to bring in the fans, then this is what you have. Fundamentally, people don't realize that you don't have to change the thing that you're trying to adapt. What made these things popular, what made each IP popular in the first place, is what people enjoyed about the originals. They liked the originals. They were drawn to the originals. And we can see that with Sonic. And even now with Sonic 2, we're seeing Knuckles. And we're seeing, Dr. Eggman looking like Dr. Eggman as well. Jim Carrey's having a ball. Idris Elba's on as Knuckles. We see one of the original actors of Tails. Tails is looking great. We're seeing a lot more video game-esque levels. We're seeing a lot of the lore being adapted, and it's like you're following the games. Like, Knuckles and Sonic were rivals. You're getting in the story, and it looks the same. And kids are obviously going to like this, and those who grew up with Sonic are obviously going to say, hey, that's awesome, and they're going to see it, and they're going to like it, and they're going to flock to it because they feel like, oh my gosh, what I loved as a kid is being adapted to an even greater platform that I could have never imagined decades ago. And Sonic is quite old. But then we see, of course, with the Rings of Power and the Lord of the Rings. And they decide to make so many changes. I'm not even going to bring up the obvious changes, but to the ones with the character changes. Like, obviously, from what I heard listening to Just Some Guy video, the Amazon only had access to just the Hobbits and the original trilogy of the Lord of the Rings, which is Fellowship, Two Towers, and The Return of the King, and of course the appendices. So they were very limited. But at the same time, with that limited information, you could have done something better. And you're going about changing characters and their attitudes and even their looks. Like, you look at, like, people had issue with Sonic, the first, obviously, a horrible, horrible design. Then you go to Galadriel, who, by the way, did not need to look like a warrior to be mighty. We already knew she was powerful, quite powerful, in fact. But you're giving her armor. You're giving her all of this stuff that doesn't fit with the lore. It doesn't fit with where the story needs to go. Same thing with Elrond. Elrond is supposed to have a regal sense, a regal look, or at least looking very stern. But the Elrond that we've seen in the trailers looks like a mayor's aide. Like he's not really that important. You can't really appreciate him. And as a result, with the obvious changes put in place, you have people saying this is not right. This is not what Tolkien wanted. This is not what we want. Okay. And what we've seen with the Peter Jackson films is that, yeah, not everything was adapted, but we had casting and you had people who cared about the product. And Christopher Lee, God rest his soul, someone who met Tolkien, was cast as the perfect person as Saruman, and he was giving advice to Peter Jackson. I've met him. This is how Tolkien operated. This is how I feel that the character should be done of Saruman. And people love to this day the Lord of the Rings trilogies. It's one of the best trilogies to ever been put on screen. One of the best adaptations ever. You know, and even though people have their issue with the Hobbit films, Smaug was done well. Um, you also had, the dwarves from the original dwarves from the Hobbit book, and for me, I watched the animated version when I was a kid. You know, they were done pretty well as well. And there were some things that people had with it, but of course, Peter Jackson can never recreate, you know, the magic. But it was there. So what's the point I'm trying to make? When you're given a property, you do not and your first goal shouldn't be to make immediate drastic changes. When people wanted to see Star Wars again after 10 years since Revenge of the Sith, people were hoping to see their OT characters be treated with respect, back in action, looking in glory, and then eventually, getting sent off in a glorious way and passing down to the next torch. But we didn't get that. And ironically, the new characters who are supposed to get that opportunity also looked and ended up looking ridiculous as a result. You know, I don't watch Star Trek Discovery, but I know that a lot of people had issues with the way um, Vulcans were treated, how Spock was looking, Spock's father, just the general story, it's a mess. Same thing with Doctor Who, and I've heard a lot of lamenting for Doctor Who as well. It's not good. But we can see that where all of those made the mistake, we see that Sonic ended up wanting to make a product or to continue to create a product that would, for starters, keep the fandom and just make an old thing look fresh. Not change it, but just look fresh. Sonic looks fresh here, looks good. And now people are excited. You already got people talking about, oh, I can't wait to see them adapt Robosonic or Shadow or add more of the characters that need to be done and do what they have. You already have Sonic 3 ready to go, and you have a Knuckles spin-off. And people are excited. All because the studios decided, hey, let's listen to our audience, let's make some changes, the necessary changes, and our product is successful. And sometimes when you're given, just because you bought something and you have the resources, doesn't mean that you should not take for granted the input of the people who made those products as profitable as and memorable and as iconic as what they are today, for you to even think that they were going to be profitable and purchase them and just do with them as you will. No, no. Do some fans get a little bit hung up? Yeah. Is there a need for some change at time to time? Of course. But the important thing is you need to keep the magic alive. You need to keep the core thing going. And that's why Sonic is in a very good position and could eventually help revive and show the platform for other video game movies to move forward. Granted, Detective Pikachu, it was okay, but it wasn't bad. But we could see what can happen as well. And they're already thinking about a Segaverse, but well, one step at a time. And now we're seeing what's happening with Lord of the Rings, where depending on this backlash, if it's as heavy as it is, I don't know whether Amazon continues after season one, but they probably will. But we'll see if they do. So anyway, thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notifications to make sure you're notified. Once again, I do these videos just to gauge you, the people, get your opinions on the public. Tell me what you think. Do you agree with this assessment? Do you think Sonic is providing the template for IPs on how they should be treated? Or do you just think that it's just a one-off and it's already been set in stone and there's no going back, unfortunately, unless they learn the hard way and you hit their bottom line? Once again, thank you all for watching. I hope to have more videos up when I can. Peace.